Shanghai 1972, a private meeting that would change combat sports forever. The heavy wooden doors of the ancient dojo slammed shut behind Muhammad Ali, and suddenly, the world's greatest boxer found himself in absolute silence. No cameras, no crowd, just him, his trainer Angelo Dundee, and across the polished floor, Bruce Lee, standing perfectly still, hands clasped behind his back, eyes closed as if meditating. Ali had come to prove a point. Boxing was the ultimate combat art. But in the next 60 seconds, everything he believed would shatter like glass. "So you're the little dragon everyone's talking about," Ali announced, his voice echoing off the walls. "I float like a butterfly, sting like a bee." "What do you use like a fly?" Bruce Lee opened his eyes slowly, no smile, no anger, just presence. When he spoke, his voice was quiet, almost gentle. "Speed isn't everything, champ." Ali froze. Something in those 4 words carried weight, like a truth he'd spent his entire career avoiding. His trainer shifted uncomfortably. They'd heard Bruce Lee could move faster than any human alive, that his 1-inch punch could send a man flying backward, that his strikes were literally too fast for cameras to capture. But speed wasn't everything. What game was Bruce playing? What did Bruce Lee know that the greatest boxer alive didn't? The challenge was simple: no hitting, just movement. Ali would try to tag Bruce with a jab. Pulled, of course, no contact, and Bruce would respond with his fastest strike. Winner, whoever landed first. Ali laughed. He was Muhammad Ali. He dodged Sonny Liston's bombs, outmaneuvered George Foreman's power, embarrassed every fighter who'd stepped into the ring with him. This would take 5 seconds. Angelo checked his stopwatch. "Ready when you are, champ." Ali bounced on his toes, that legendary shuffle starting, hands up in his textbook stance. Across from him, Bruce Lee didn't move, didn't raise his guard, just stood there, 1 foot slightly forward, hands loose at his sides, breathing so calmly you'd think he was asleep. "The disrespect!" Ali's competitive fire ignited. "Here comes the butterfly!" Ali shouted, and exploded forward with a jab, the same lightning-fast left that had stunned champions, the punch Sports Illustrated called the fastest in boxing history. But Bruce Lee wasn't there. He didn't block, didn't duck, didn't step back. He simply vanished. Ali's fist cut through empty air, and before Ali could even process what happened, he felt something impossible: pressure. Not a touch, not a strike, just Bruce Lee's finger hovering 1 millimeter from Ali's throat. Not moving, just there, waiting. Ali stopped breathing. How had Bruce crossed 8 feet in less than a blink? Ali hadn't seen him move. 1 microsecond Bruce was across the room, the next his finger was at Ali's carotid artery, and Ali's own momentum had carried him forward, completely exposed, completely helpless. If that finger had extended just slightly, Angelo's stopwatch clattered to the floor. Bruce Lee withdrew his hand and stepped back to his original position, returning to that same calm stance as if nothing had happened. "Again?" he asked quietly. Ali's mind was racing. That was impossible. He'd fought the fastest heavyweights on the planet. He'd trained his eyes to see punches before they were thrown, to read shoulders, hips, weight shifts. No tell, no warning, just action. Pure devastating action. What the hell was that? Ali's voice had lost its playfulness. "Economy of motion," Bruce replied. "You move beautifully, champ, but you telegraph. Your shoulder drops before you jab. Your weight shifts before you move. Your body announces your intention to the world. Speed isn't moving fast, it's eliminating everything unnecessary. The fastest strike is the one your opponent doesn't see coming because you never showed them it was coming." Ali felt something he hadn't felt in years: doubt. Not about his abilities, he was still the greatest boxer alive, but about his understanding. He'd spent his entire career perfecting his speed, but Bruce was talking about something else entirely, something deeper, something that made all that speed predictable. Could the world's fastest hands be too slow if they were predictable? "Let's go again," Ali said, but this time his voice was different. Focused, serious. The showman had vanished. Now it was the champion speaking, the warrior who'd studied every opponent, who'd trained in the darkness of Miami gyms at 4 a.m., who'd refused to quit when the world told him to. "But this time, I'm watching for it." Bruce Lee nodded. Respect flickered in his eyes. "Good. Watch carefully." Angelo reset his stopwatch. The dojo seemed to grow colder, or maybe it was just the tension crystallizing the air. Ali narrowed his eyes, shifting into pure concentration. He'd see it this time. He had to. He'd fought Floyd Patterson, who threw punches in combinations so fast they blurred. He'd survived Cleveland Williams, whose power could end fights in seconds. He'd mastered the sweet science of boxing. He threw the jab again, but this time he watched, really watched, and he saw it. Bruce Lee didn't move his feet first, didn't shift his weight backward or sideways like Ali expected. Instead, he collapsed forward, not a step, but a controlled fall, dropping his center of gravity while simultaneously raising one hand. The movement was so economical, so minimal, that it barely qualified as motion. It was more like reality hiccuped, and suddenly Bruce's hand was there, 2 fingers extended, actually touching this time, the side of Ali's head, right at the temple, the knockout point. Ali stumbled, not from force but from the realization. Bruce hadn't struck him. He'd placed his fingers against Ali's skull with less pressure than a feather, but the message was clear: if those fingers had been a fist, if Bruce had wanted to, Ali would be unconscious before his jab had even reached its target. How? Ali straightened up, rubbing his temple. No pain, but the ghost of that touch remained, haunting him. How do you move without moving? Bruce Lee's expression softened. The demonstration was over. Now came the teaching. You've built your career on speed, champ. And you're right, you're fast. Faster than almost anyone. But you've also built patterns. Rhythms. Beautiful rhythms that make you great in the ring, where rules exist, where opponents can only attack certain ways, where the space is limited and controlled. He began circling slowly and Ali tracked him, but now Ali was the student, not the fighter. In Jeet Kune Do, we don't practice techniques, we practice principles. The principle isn't move faster than your opponent. It's be where your opponent isn't and strike where your opponent can't defend. Time isn't about speed, it's about timing. Rhythm isn't about quickness, it's about disruption. Angelo had picked up his stopwatch but wasn't even looking at it anymore. He was mesmerized. Your jab is beautiful, Bruce continued. Textbook perfect. But that's the problem, it's textbook. I've watched your fights. I've studied your movement. Before you jab, your left foot slides forward 2 inches. Every single time. Your opponent doesn't consciously see it, but their body knows something is coming. I don't wait to see your punch. I respond to your intention. Ali felt his worldview cracking. Was he really that predictable? Show me, Ali said suddenly. Show me how to move like that. The request hung in the air. Muhammad Ali, the man who'd refused to be drafted, who'd fought the US government and won, who'd declared himself the greatest and backed it up, was asking Bruce Lee to teach him. Angelo looked shocked, but Bruce Lee just nodded, as if he'd expected this all along. The problem with boxing, Bruce said, moving to stand beside Ali, mirroring his stance, was that it's built on fairness, equal reach, equal opportunity, same rules for both fighters. But real combat isn't fair. Real combat is about ending the threat before it begins. Here, feel this. He placed Ali's hand on his own shoulder. Throw your jab. Don't pull it. Aim for my face. Bruce, I'm not gonna do it. Ali hesitated, then threw a controlled jab, maybe 50% power. Bruce's shoulder tensed beneath Ali's palm, but not forward into the punch. Backward, into Ali. The movement was so subtle Ali almost missed it, but suddenly Bruce's entire body had compressed like a spring, and that compression had transferred through his shoulder into Ali's hand, up Ali's arm, into Ali's own shoulder, and Ali's jab lost all its power, dying in midair as if hitting invisible molasses. Redirection, Bruce explained. I don't block your energy. I don't absorb it. I redirect it back into its source. Your own power becomes your prison. Ali threw 3 more jabs, faster each time. But the result was always the same. That subtle backward pressure, that compression, and his strikes lost coherence, became loose, became nothing. It was like punching water. Every bit of force he generated simply dissolved. What happens when unstoppable force meets unmovable motion? But that's defense. Ali protested, pulling his hand back, flexing his fingers. What about offense? How do you generate power without telegraphing? Bruce Lee smiled, the first real smile Ali had seen from him. That's the secret, champ. You don't generate power. Power is always there. He turned sideways, raised one hand maybe 6 inches from his hip. You release it. And he pushed his palm forward. That was it. No wind-up, no twist. No transfer of weight from back foot to front foot like every punch Ali had ever thrown. Just a small, tight push, maybe 8 inches of travel. The heavy bag across the dojo, a 300-pound canvas and sand monster that could absorb Sonny Liston's best shots, exploded backward with a sound like a gunshot, chains rattling violently as it swung to the ceiling and back. Angelo actually jumped. Ali's jaw dropped. The 1-inch punch, Bruce said calmly. But it's not about the inch. It's about having your entire body, every muscle, every fiber, every ounce of intention, aligned in a single direction at a single moment. No preparation. No warning. Manifestation. Ali approached the bag, which was still swinging slightly. He placed his hand against it the way Bruce had tried to push with that same compact motion. The bag rocked slightly, maybe moved 6 inches. Nowhere near the explosion Bruce had created. Don't muscle it, Bruce corrected, coming to stand beside him. Feel the ground beneath your feet. Feel the connection from heel to hip to shoulder to fist. One line. One chain, everything connected. The power doesn't come from your arm. Your arm is just the last link. The power comes from the earth itself, traveling through you. Could a punch be less about strength and more about connection? They trained for 3 hours. Not fighting, exploring. Bruce showed Ali how to feel tension in his own body, the places where he held unnecessary tightness that slowed his reactions. He showed Ali how to breathe differently, how each breath could either energize or relax different muscle groups. He showed Ali how to stand so that movement in any direction required the same minimal effort. No position favored, no direction faster than another, and slowly something clicked. Ali threw a jab, but this time he didn't think about his shoulder. He didn't think about his weight shift. He thought only about his fist arriving at the target, and he let his body figure out the most economical way to get it there. The punch felt different, looser, almost lazy. But when it snapped out, Angelo's eyes went wide. That was faster, champ. I don't know how, but that was faster. Bruce Lee nodded approvingly. Because you stopped trying to be fast. You just were. They broke for water. Ali's shirt was soaked with sweat, not from exertion but from concentration. His mind felt like it had run a marathon. Everything he'd known about fighting, everything he'd built his career on, wasn't wrong, he realized. It was just incomplete. Boxing had given him the tools to be the greatest in his sport. But Bruce Lee was showing him something that existed beyond sport. Beyond rules. Beyond the bell that ends the round. Why are you showing me this? Ali asked suddenly. You could keep these secrets. Use them. Make money teaching rich people in Hollywood. Bruce Lee sat down on the wooden floor, cross-legged, and after a moment Ali joined him. Two legends, sitting like school kids. What drives a master to share his deepest knowledge? Because, Bruce said slowly, choosing his words carefully, what I teach isn't mine to keep. It belongs to anyone willing to humble themselves enough to learn. You came here expecting to prove boxing was superior. Instead, you asked me to show you something new. That humility. That's rarer than speed, champ. That's rarer than power. He looked directly at Ali, and for the first time, Ali saw not the martial artist, not the movie star, but the human being. We're both pioneers. You're breaking barriers in boxing, showing the world that a fighter can be an artist, a poet, a force for change. I'm trying to break barriers in martial arts, to free it from tradition and dogma, to make it alive and responsive. We're doing the same work in different arenas. Ali felt something shift in his chest. He'd come here for a challenge, maybe even a fight. But he'd found something more valuable, a mirror. Someone who understood the weight of being the best, of carrying expectations, of trying to transcend your discipline while honoring it. Speed isn't everything, Ali repeated Bruce's original words, but I'm still the fastest heavyweight alive. You are, Bruce agreed, grinning now. But now you're the fastest heavyweight who understands that speed is just the beginning, not the destination. They stood up, bowed to each other. Bruce's bow from Wing Chun tradition, Ali's bow from simple respect. As Ali and Angelo headed toward the doors, Ali paused, turned back. One more question. If we actually fought, no rules, no cameras, just you and me, who wins? The question that would haunt both their legacies hung in the air. Bruce Lee's expression became unreadable. He was quiet for a long moment, then said something that Ali would think about for the rest of his life. In a real fight, champ, everyone loses something, even the winner. The real victory is finding someone who makes you better without fighting them at all. Ali laughed. That big, beautiful Ali laugh that had charmed the world. Damn, Bruce, you talk like a philosopher. And you box like a poet. We're not so different. The doors opened and sunlight flooded the dojo. Ali stepped into it, but he was changed. Not physically. He was still the heavyweight champion, still the fastest, still the greatest. But something in his understanding had deepened. He'd learned that there were depths to combat he hadn't explored, that speed could be transcended, that the deadliest weapons weren't always the fastest ones. That night, Ali would tell Angelo, "Don't tell anyone about this. They wouldn't understand. Hell, I barely understand it myself." But he did understand. He understood that Bruce Lee had shown him something precious, not how to be faster, but how to be more complete. In his next fight against Jerry Quarry, Ali would slip punches differently, move with slightly less tension, and strike with more connection. Commentators would say he looked looser, but somehow more dangerous. Bruce Lee would never speak publicly about their meeting either, but in his notes, in his personal journal, he'd write, "Met Ali today. Showed him economy of motion. He absorbed it like a sponge. Boxing's loss if he ever truly learns what I showed him. He'd be unstoppable. Years later, after Bruce Lee's death in 1973, Ali would say in a rare interview, "I met Bruce Lee once, trained with him. People ask me who would win in a fight, and I tell them, Bruce already won because he taught me something nobody else could. He taught me that being the greatest isn't about being the fastest or the strongest. It's about never stopping your growth, even when you're already at the top." The interviewer pressed, "But who would actually win?" Ali smiled, that mischievous glint returning to his eyes. "Speed isn't everything, brother. Bruce taught me that. But I'm still the greatest." And maybe that was the truth they both discovered that day in Shanghai. Greatness isn't about dominance. It's about evolution. It's about two masters from different worlds meeting in mutual respect and walking away elevated. Ali never needed to prove he could beat Bruce Lee, and Bruce never needed to prove he could dodge Ali's punches. They proved something more important, that true mastery recognizes itself, bows to itself, and grows from itself. The door of that old dojo closed behind Ali that day, but somewhere in the space between the closing and the silence, two legends had touched something eternal. The understanding that in combat, as in life, the greatest victory isn't conquest, it's transformation, and transformation requires one thing above all else: the willingness to stop breathing for a moment, to pause, to let go of what you think you know, and to learn. Just like Ali did when Bruce Lee's finger touched his throat and time stopped. Now tell me, if you could ask either Bruce Lee or Muhammad Ali a question about that day, what would it be and why? Drop your answer in the comments below!